That's right, you can carry on eating. As per.
I feel like we started something now, so I don't care anymore if I have food when I come to record.
Today it is
Pringles! No, but I
forgot-
actually bought these for the picnic. So my mum told me to bring snacks and she'd bring like a pasta salad.
Aww.
And then she turned up and she'd brought the whole picnic. So I was like, no one's eating my Pringles.
I wish
Oh,
my
well.
mum did that. I'm just kidding, Mum, if you're listening. You're great. You're fine. It's alright. Please don't send me an angry text again. I forgot that. So for anyone listening, welcome to the Pony Podcast.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hello.
We're going to start with a little roundup of all the times we've seen the vet this week.
So, time number one seeing the vet was for me was just before Barbie, when my horse had the tiniest bit of swelling on her leg, and I panicked and called the vet, and the vet came out and was like, okay, so she's basically fine. And I was like, oh, but she might have done a tendon. And the vet was like, she's fine. And then the second time was, I had been planning on giving my horse a day off, and then felt really guilty, so went out at 8 o'clock at night to ride. And I didn't realise, but apparently she holds her lip in her teeth when she gets tense, and she was holding her lip in her teeth and she tripped. So she put her teeth straight through her lip, and there was blood everywhere. I was covered in blood. I was crying on the phone to the vet because there was so much blood and her lip was like hanging off and it was vile. And I've just taken my earphones out and realised that they too are covered in blood from where I was covered in blood, and was like ripping them out of my ear and like unconnecting them from my phone so I could ring the vet, and like didn't know what to do. And yeah, there's blood all over them.
Aww.
Her lip is now stitched back on, for anyone who's worried. It's stitched back on and it looks to be healing well, so she might come out of this with half of it. Half of it looks like it's probably gonna come off.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, but it's only half of it, so they can do. Apparently, the vet was like, "Yeah, she'll be fine with just like a little chunk missing." She just modelling career for Squidward the Piglet.
Just like do a smile that doesn't show any teeth, and then like her lips will still be together.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be fine.
I've been up to the vets twice this week.
Why have you been up to the vet?
So I had to pick up Maddie's horse from the vet that fell over at Barbary, and they were doing lots of tests on it.
Yeah, it's all fine. She's back here. She's all fine.
And then today I had to do an emergency trip to the vet to take a mare and foal up because the foal had an infected umbilical cord. And
gross.
Yeah, it was really gross. And they'd be treating it here and giving it penicillin.
Yeah.
But the vet scanned it today, and she scanned under her stomach, and like inside was just full of pus.
Oh, gross!
Yeah, and it like become a hematoma, and it was going like under her bladder. So they were like, "Go to the vet," so they could operate on her tomorrow morning and clean it all out. And
oh, gross!
Yeah, but she's very happy. Like the foal's fine. They're all very
good.
chill. Yeah, you wouldn't know she wasn't very well to look at her.
Oh.
She's my favourite as well.
Belly full of pus.
She's my favourite. She's a little black filly called
Oh,
Flicker.
the cute one.
Yeah, the really cute one.
The cute one who was being super sassy today.
Also, I think those people have been prodding her with needles and like cleaning her sorbet. That's why she's getting really sassy.
Super sassy.
But she's so cute, and she like likes you giving her cuddles, and she when you go put your head over the door, she's like, ooh, and like walks over to you, be like, hi guys.
She's like your horse when there's food about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you like her. Following on from lots of vet visits, we should be sponsored by Bourne Vale.
I also want to point out that the same woman that was there when I picked up Maddie's horse was there tonight when I went back again the day after
like,
with the
"You
mare
again."
and foal. It's like she recognised me as well.
You need a loyalty card.
I do need a loyalty card.
Anyway, so following on from that, our topic today is ailments of the foot.
So anyone like avid listeners will remember we've done an ailments episode which did like the big ones.
Yeah.
And we've also done a skin ailments episode.
Yeah.
So this one is just following on from that.
Foot ailments episode. Yay! I always really like this because we always had thoroughbreds who had terrible feet.
Oh,
so I always got to this section and was like, bam, bam, got this, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. So we're going to start with puncture wounds. So if your horse has a puncture wound, it's quite obvious because, yeah. Okay, you were giving me the like. No, I don't want to start with that.
No. We're gonna kind of discuss puncture wounds and like pus in the foot together because they both require similar treatment once there's a hole.
Okay, so we're gonna start with puncture wounds because puncture wounds, when a horse gets a puncture wound, it's normally quite obvious because they don't want to put any weight on it. Like, it's like if you tread on a nail or a drawing pin, like, you don't want to put any weight on it because it really, really hurts. You have to be quite careful with puncture wounds because you don't know how deep they go, and if whatever has caused the wound is still in there, you don't want to take it out because it's putting pressure on all of the blood supply and it's stopping it bleeding out.
But it does depend where it is.
Yeah. So if it's
on the bottom of the foot,
yeah,
probably want to like cut a bit off.
Yeah. So if it's standing proud and they're going to push it further in, you want to cut as Alex said, cut a bit off so that it's flush to the foot and they're not going to push it further in. But if it's sitting flush and they're not going to do more damage to themselves by keeping it in, you want to keep it in so that you don't disturb anything, like cause more damage as you put it out, and you don't then suddenly it's like having a cork in a wine bottle and turning the wine bottle upside down. If you pull the cork out, then it's all going to rush straight out.
If you do pull something out that's in the puncture wound, make sure if you've got like a pen or a bit of tape, you draw a line on it where it's
how deep it is.
So when the vet sees it, they're like, oh, this is how far it's gone in, this is what kind of damage it could have done.
Yeah.
On the same vein, like abscesses or pus in the foot are caused by dirt or gravel that gets in and causes an infection. If you have like a really wet spell, the feet become softer, and then bits of dirt and gravel can get in by the white line, and then it just like causes a lot of pus.
And that pus, where the hoof wall isn't like expandable, it like builds pressure, and they get lamer and lamer, and they can be like non-weight bearing lame from it.
If left untreated, it will take the path of least resistance and come out to the coronet band. We had a horse that got turned out over the winter, and when it came back in, it had this weird like lump on its coronet band.
Yeah.
And it was just had an abscess in the field.
Oh, gross.
A bit gross. But anyway, it does show that happens.
Yeah.
And if you suspect your horse has an abscess or pus in the foot, you want to call the farrier, because the farrier will have all the tools he needs to have a look.
Yeah.
He'll get his hoof testers out and have a little feel
find
around.
out where it is.
Yeah, find out where the most sensitive part is, and then he'll like par away the sole until he bursts the abscess.
Yeah.
And then you can go about
poulticing it
and draining it.
Getting it all out. Yeah.
So with both puncture wound and an abscess, once the abscess has been released or the vet's cleaned out the puncture wound, you want to start treating it. So you can do that by tubbing it, which is when you get a bucket of hand hot water, add some salt to it, and you put the foot in it, and that just draws out any infection. And then you want to poultice, which will then continue to draw out infection, and it will also keep it clean because it's got a barrier against being in a stable. Yeah.
The only time you don't want to poultice is if you've got a puncture wound that's near a joint or that's like openly bleeding, because poultices draw out whatever's inside, and if you're putting it on a joint, you might draw out joint synovial fluid. Yeah. Alex is giving me a really weird look. Suddenly, like, no,
is she gonna get it? Is she gonna get it?
Yeah. And if it's like, obviously, if it's actively bleeding and you put a poultice on it, you're just going to draw out more blood, and it's going to bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed.
Fun fact: if you get a puncture wound on a joint, and there is synovial fluid leaking, you can tell it's synovial fluid and not like just like the serum, because it's got different consistency. So like golden syrup, it's that kind of consistency, like tacky.
Oh, so gross. So gross.
And then you want to poultice the animal insects poultice, and you keep putting poultices on until you get 2 clean ones off, and you want to change them twice a day.
And poultice it. Should we talk about poultices? Let's not talk about poultices. We'll do that.
I feel like poultices is something that would be better on a YouTube video when we eventually get our YouTube channel.
Then we can find kaolin and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one we're gonna talk about is nail bind or nail prick, which is it's contributed by bad foot conformation, and it tends to be if the farrier's just put in a nail just slightly too close to the white line in the foot, and then the horse goes really, really lame shortly after being shod. And
like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And you just have to get the farrier to come out, take your shoe off, and then let it heal with time.
It's a bit like if you get a stone in your shoe.
Yeah.
You can kind of walk with it for a bit, and then you're like, it really hurts. But nail prick is where the farrier penetrates sensitive tissues.
Okay.
So when he puts the nail in and it goes the wrong place, and you know immediately it's happened because the horse like jumps away and there might be a little bit of blood, and the farrier is really apologetic. But if you've got, sometimes with thoroughbreds, they've got quite thin walls on their feet, so they're more likely to have a problem.
They have flatter and like more splayed feet as well, so they've got less angle of wall to go up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, working on the stereotype that thoroughbreds have bad feet.
Terrible feet.
Another one, the next one we're going to go for is bruised sole. And this is quite common in horses that either have thin soles and flat feet, like thoroughbreds, or that don't wear shoes. So we had like a little Welsh pony that he went to a rally over Easter. And there were lots of stony tracks to walk around on, and then the next day he was really, really footsore because he was like, "It's a stone that I haven't got any shoes on. My feet
it
are
quite
really
often
sore."
happens after camp, because you have a lot of ponies that like aren't shod, maybe they're not used to doing lots of work, and then they go and hoon around a field in the middle of the summer when it's really hard, and then they come back and they're all a bit like, "Oh my feet, oh my feet, oh my feet, oh my feet." And all you can really do to treat it is like give them some time off, isn't it?
Kaolin poultices.
Oh, Kaolin poultices. We're going to talk about Kaolin poultices in another episode then.
Yeah, but it's a treatment.
Okay, so you can put a Kaolin poultice on it.
And the difference between animal intex and kaolin is animal intex is like a man-made medical fabricy thing that you cut to size, and kaolin is clay.
Yeah, and you just pack it in.
You pack it in, and it draws out any heat and bruising.
We found I feel like most yards have like a vet cupboard, and in the back there's something black and sticky that you don't. We found
treacle.
Ours was kaolin, and we like had to unstick it, and everyone was like, I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's kaolin! Like I've learned all about that doing my AH and all of this," and everyone was like, "Oh cool, how do you use it?" And I was like, "You don't. You use animal intex instead."
No, it all depends on it, because our farrier told us to get kaolin for this little Welsh pony that had sore feet.
Aww.
And we kaolin poulticed all 4 of his feet.
You can tub them as well in cold water.
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
Aww.
But yeah, our farrier. But the thing with bruised soles is you don't normally see the bruises.
Yeah.
So on a person you get like this reddy black, blue, depending on how badly you bruise yourself, bruises. Whereas horses you don't really see.
Okay, so the next one is something that hopefully everyone will be quite familiar with.
We did this in another episode.
We did.
So if you want to go back, laminitis, by the way, I said it. If you want to go back and look at the ailments one, we cover it there.
Yeah. Just to recap quickly, it's caused by changes in the foot circulation, which cause inflammation of the sensitive laminae, which are kind of what connect the sensitive structures of the foot to the hoof wall. And the swelling causes pressure, which causes acute pain. It's like if you get a splinter underneath your nail, which makes me cringe just thinking about it. But that's the kind of pain we're talking about, so it is quite a big deal. And if you want to know more about the causes and the treatment and everything, then head back to our ailments episode. Yeah. And it'll be there.
Cool. So next one, about different cracks.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 different types of cracks you can get in a horse's foot. You can get sand cracks and grass cracks.
Grass cracks grow up the foot and sand cracks go down the foot.
Yep.
I remember that one.
Yep. And the better one to have is a grass crack.
Yeah. Yeah, because the bottom of the foot is like older, and if they have like a little crack at the bottom, they might not feel it, they probably won't be lame. But if you have one at the top, like that's where all the blood supply is, so they're going to be sore. Like.
And also with a grass crack, sometimes they're caused by not shoeing your horse quickly enough or the feet being dry, and you can deal with that quite easily, whereas a grass crack could be something like
sand crack.
Sorry, sand crack. Tongue tied. A sand crack can be from like
every time you say crack it makes me giggle.
Seriously.
It's that time of day.
Finish giggling, we'll continue with the episode. So sand crack. Oh.
Continue. Oh, stop. I'll get a hold of myself eventually.
Okay. We are a
Sandy
professional
cracks,
podcast, I promise. So they could be caused by like a impact to the coronet band. Or like we were saying with the abscesses, if an abscess is erupted, that can disrupt the hoof growing. So that could be it's caused there. Yeah.
And sand cracks as well, you have to basically just wait for them to grow out as well. You can't stitch them back together?
It depends, like, how big they are.
Okay.
With both of them, it depends how big they are. Because if they're quite wide, sometimes you have to pack it so that nothing can get in, or you have to sometimes you have to screw them back together, and like it's a lot of
Is it like? Did you see there was something that did the rounds on Facebook where some charity was repairing turtle and tortoise shells with bra hooks they got what?
I didn't see this bit. I just saw they were repairing shells.
They were repairing like turtle shells that had been like run over by a lawnmower or something, and they were getting like the hooks off bra hooks and gluing them onto the shell and then getting a wire and like lacing them together to hold them together, which I thought was so smart.
That's really clever.
Anyway, they don't do that. Maybe they should, but they don't do that.
I feel like that's not really won't hold up well enough for horses.
Never mind.
Okay, next one.
Corns. The corns is something that always catches people out because you hear corns and you think it must be like a thing that you can either see or remove or whatever, and it's just a bruise in the seat of corn.
I think what gets people is the fact that when you learn the parts of the foot, you learn them before you learn all the ailments.
Yeah.
So you learn the seat of corns as a thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, this is the seat of corns, but no one has any idea what a corn is.
Yeah.
They just learn that's what it is.
Yeah.
Therefore, something must be there because it is the seat of something.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just a bruise.
And the only reason that it happens there is because corns are bruises left that really occur from having shoes kept on too long.
Okay.
So as the foot grows,
yeah,
the shoes are going to come forward with the foot. The heel of the shoe is going to be in the seat of corns.
Yeah.
So that's why you get corns there.
Yeah. So they're just a bruise. Like they're nothing to say. And the treatment's the same for like bruised soles in that you just like cool it down, like tub them, take the shoes off, get them reshod.
Unlike other bruises, you generally can see corns.
Okay.
There'll be like a red bruising when you take the shoe off, and you can tell they have corns because when they are on circles and turns, the foot that's affected, who's on the inside, is most lame.
Okay. Cool.
Easy. Cool.
Next, we've got thrush. So thrush affects the frog in the foot, and it's where the feet get wet and they don't dry out, and that causes the frog to rot.
It's a bacterial infection.
Yeah. So it's not rotting. I thought it was.
Well, yeah, because you need something to decompose.
Okay, so it's a bacterial infection that causes the frog to rot, and it smells vile. Like it's the most disgusting thing.
Like imagine how bad people's smelly feet are. Like horses' smelly feet are even worse.
Oh my god, it's horrible. And the best way to treat it is to like disinfect, scrub them out, try and let it dry, and have the farrier trim the like decayed bits away. And if you have any antibiotics, spray with antibiotics. You can pack with Stockholm tar, which is another thing we found in the back of the cupboard. We didn't know what to do with. And if it's infected, then you want to poultice it to draw the infection out.
You can prevent thrush quite easily.
Yeah.
Just by picking out their feet regularly and making sure your beds are really clean. Because anyone that's read Black Beauty will know that he was left in a dirty stable, and that's why he got thrush. The next ailment of the foot we're going to talk about is seedy toe. Seedy toe has many causes.
As Alex reads this section in the AH
I'm
binder.
not reading it, I have show notes, I researched it.
Sorry. Sure.
Okay.
Anywho.
It may be related to laminitis, or a bacterial infection that can get in between where the white line is. And basically it causes separation of the sensitive and insensitive part of the foot. And it becomes all crumbly, like kind of crumbles away at the front. And it sort of is wide at the bottom, and then it gets smaller and smaller as it crumbles up. And it basically, you need to be careful how you shoe to start with. So no toe clips, because it'll probably be right at the toe that it starts to crumble. You probably want like side clips or like a natural balance type shoe. And you can trim back the area because it's bacterial infection that's caused it. You want to trim it back to get rid of the infected stuff, and you can pack with Stockholm tar. Another use for Stockholm tar.
Our farrier made a shoe like specifically for a horse that had seedy toe, and he cut out the like front quarter of the shoe and then welded a rasp to hold like the two sides together, so that it was still like the horse still had a shoe on, but it meant that you were completely clear of the seedy toe part, so you could get medicines in and out. And
That's really clever.
yeah, he's a good guy, my fairy.
Super clever.
The next one is.
And I was going to say something else.
A less fun one. Okay.
Sorry. The same with seedy toe and with the cracks.
Yeah.
You might want to feed a supplement like biotin.
Yeah.
To help with hoof growth.
Yeah.
Just because then it grows back faster and stronger.
Yeah.
And then that's likely to reoccur.
Yeah. The next one's a less fun one. It is navicular, which is a degenerative disease of the navicular bone. So if anyone's seen the x-rays I put up of Piglet's feet, the navicular bone is the tiny little round one at the bottom if you're looking side on.
It's like the shape of a Terry's chocolate orange segment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of, you know, when you don't put together something, I didn't put together that it was like long. I thought I kind of always just had it pictured in my mind as a little circle.
Can you see it side on?
Yeah, but obviously I saw her x-rays and was like, oh yeah, it is.
Yeah,
long.
my sister did that when we were training pony care. Sorry, Catherine, if you're listening. Because you always see a picture of the pedal bone from the side, so it looks like a triangle. And then we saw a picture of it from above, and she's like, oh, it's hoof shaped. Yeah, like it's round at the front.
Yeah, it's like a little spade.
Yeah,
yeah.
And she's like, that's so cool.
I might re-put up that her x-ray just so everyone can see it and they don't have to scroll right back through our Instagram. But yeah, so it is a degenerative disease. So once the degeneration, I'm really struggling with that word. Once the degeneration starts, it's just going to progress and progress. And where the navicular sits, you have tendons that run underneath it and then up the back of the leg. So the more the bone degenerates, the more it's going to wear on the tendons and kind of grate on them. So the lameness gets worse and worse. And it's not normally a very good prognosis.
However, depending on how bad it is, there are a lot of things you can do to help.
Yeah.
Because there's a horse that went round badminton this year that had navicular.
Really? Which one?
Ellen's horse. The vets wrote it off and were like, he's never going to compete again. And then she got another vet to look at it that does a lot with competition horses. And he was like, is it still sound? And she was like, yeah. Is it still doing the job? Yeah. Cool, crack on.
That's fine then. It is one of the things you can... So one of the things you can do to help is you can raise the heel and take pressure off the tendons. So if you think like, just raise the heel so that there's less stress and strain going down the tendons around the back of the bone. And you can do that with things like egg bar shoes and pattern bar shoes, if you've ever seen those. Yeah. So they just lift the heel up a little bit.
But you can't ride in pattern bar shoes. No. Because it's like wearing high heels for horses.
Yeah. But you can ride in egg bar shoes.
Or heart bar shoes.
That's
what Ellen's horse has.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
You'd know if a horse had navicular because the lameness is intermittent.
Yeah.
So it's kind of lame for a bit and then fine, then lame for a bit and then fine. And the stride will shorten over time and become quite pottery.
Yeah.
It's generally worse on a circle than on hard ground. And when they're standing in the stable, they may stand with one front foot slightly more forward than the other. And they might scrape bedding back to stand
to make a hole.
Yeah, to relieve pressure.
They do that when they have laminitis as well.
Yeah. And
if they have, God forbid, done a tendon, sometimes they'll stand with their toes in holes to take the pressure off the tendons as well.
Cool.
This is what my horse always backs up to a bank and stands with her hind feet in a bank, and she's fine. Like, it's nothing to do with anything that's going on in her legs. But every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I wish you wouldn't do that, because every time I see it, I'm like, you've definitely done something. Definitely.
Okay, next one, we've got side bone. And Tess, you can say a little phrase I can see at the corner of my eye you've got really excited about.
Side bone is ossification of the lateral cartilages.
So if you are doing your B test and someone asks you about side bone, repeat that phrase because it sounds like you know what you're talking about.
That phrase is side bone is ossification of the lateral cartilages.
And in English means...
It just means the cartilage that goes up the side of the pastern from the fetlock down to the hoof.
So it's on the side, so it's lateral.
Yeah, so those cartilages just become bony. So that's ossification. So bone cells basically collect around the cartilages and make them hard instead of squishy, and you can feel it when you run your hands down the pastern because it feels really, really hard and bone-like instead of being a bit squishy.
It's generally caused by concussion and poor conformation. But they can also sometimes be caused by direct injury
Yeah.
to the cartilage.
Yeah.
And then it will be like, ugh, and then turn to bone to protect itself.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the body overreacts. It's like when splints form, it can because the two bones rub together a little bit, and in order to protect itself, the body shoves loads of bone cells there to repair the damage that isn't there. There's just a bit of abrasion, and then you get a big splint formed because there's loads of bone formation. The lateral cartilages are important in hoot circulation from the frog as well, because when the frog compacts into the foot, it's the lateral cartilages that like bow out and push all the blood out of the foot and up the leg.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
When your horse has side bone, while it's forming, your horse may be lame and walk a bit shorter stride, but then once it's formed, the lameness goes, and generally they're not going to cause you that many problems.
The only problems you can get is if they brush really badly, they can fracture them.
Yeah,
and that's really bad.
Good. Yeah, then they have to. Yeah, it's a lot of box rest.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, really not good.
The other one that's related is ring bone.
Yeah, ring bone is. I've forgotten the ossification of the side bone.
It's just a bony enlargement, but you can have it. You can have it high or low, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Because like if it's high ring bone, it's on the long pastern, and that's cool because you can see it, you can deal with it. But if it's low ring bone, it's on the short pastern, and that could
which is
then
half
be
inside the foot, isn't it?
Yeah, and if it's inside the foot, there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
And then that's a problem.
They're really easy to feel. So obviously, side bone's really easy to feel because the lateral cartilages are right on the side of the pastern. But ring bone literally feels like a bony ring around the pastern, especially if it's high. If it's low, then you can't always feel it.
Yeah.
But if it's high, then you can feel it straight on the pastern. It's really easy to identify.
Yeah, ring bone, unfortunately, once they've got it, the prognosis for work isn't very good.
It's no bueno.
Yeah, like there's not a lot you can do for them.
Yeah.
I think your farrier can shoe them with rocker bar shoes to help with the breakover. Yeah, there isn't a fancy word. I just scrolled to my show notes and there isn't a fancy word.
I thought there was. I got really excited.
It's just because side bone has such a cool one that everyone knows and everyone learns. You think there should be one for ring bone.
And it makes me really happy that I know it.
And there isn't.
Ossification of the lateral cartilages. Yeah. It's like all of the cap tox and cap knees are acquired bursitis of the joint capsule, which I really enjoyed learning as well.
Ooh.
Acquired bursitis. Good. And the bursate is just the joint capsule.
Yeah, if you can learn scientific words that make you sound really clever, then when you get to your exams, even if you just say like a phrase that sounds really scientific, the examiner will either be like, ooh, they've learned this and they know it and I know what they're talking about, I'm not going to ask anymore, or they'll be like, I don't really know what that means, so we're going to run with it.
Yeah. I found often, because I felt like I'm quite lucky in that I did a biology degree, so like biology has always come quite easily for me, and stuff like ossification of the lateral cartilages was always stuff that I could learn pick up really easily. So I'd get into tests and just be like, oh yeah, it's blah 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 blah, and then they'd not ask me anything more. They'd just move straight on. It's a good tip to learn. If you can baffle them with long words, they leave you alone.
But make sure they're relevant long words. Don't just learn a dictionary because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, it's annoying when you do have an examiner who can call you out on your lies.
Yeah.
And you're just there like, oh god.
I feel like one day I might be that examiner.
I feel like you're going to be that examiner as well. I've already passed all of mine. You can't take them away from me now. I'm all good.
So the last one on our Ailments of the Foot podcast is pedalostitis. And this is another fancy word for arthritis of the pedal bone.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically it's caused by wear and tear, concussion. More likely to get it if they have wide or flat feet.
So thoroughbreds.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they cannot catch a break.
No, my mum told me that I wasn't allowed to have a thoroughbred until I could pay for its vet bills myself.
It's fair.
To be fair, lots of thoroughbreds are fine.
Yeah.
But they have a bad reputation.
They do have a bad reputation.
So they're also not painting everyone with the same brush.
Yeah, we always, I think of them a little bit like whippets, and that they have quite thin skin, so they, to use my mum's phrase, they unzip quite easily. If they go past something and they catch it. They just have quite thin skin, they're not very robust for stuff like that, which is, fair enough.
So, moving back on to pedalostitis. They generally sound when it's soft but hard, or lame when it's hard or uneven. And lameness will improve if the horse is rested, but will get worse again when they're worked. So the prognosis isn't very good.
No.
You probably want to shoe them with something that has like a wide web, so a thicker bit of metal underneath the foot to give a bit more support.
Would something like pads help, because it will just take some of the concussion out?
Yeah, could do. But generally, like, you've got to be, if you want to work them, be really careful about what kind of ground you work them on. And if it's arthritis, it's not going to get any better.
No. And you don't want, like, the... Is it something where, like, the more you work them, the worse it's going to get?
Yeah, because arthritis is like wearing down of the cartilage between the bones, so...
Yeah. So not ideal.
No.
Anyway.
But that is a wrap.
That's all of our things.
Hopefully,
However,
I remembered something from the last episode that I forgot to say.
Ooh.
Talking about dentists.
Yeah.
So I had to take a horse to the dentist a while ago.
Okay.
Because this is a dentist that horses come to him rather than he goes to the horses.
Smart.
And he was telling me that there never used to be equine specific dentists. Farriers used to do the teeth.
Yeah, Mum told me that as well.
So, but it was because then the First World War broke out, and all the farriers had to go off to either go to fight or look after all the horses on the front line, and that's when the vets were like, "Oh, maybe we could do teeth," and started doing teeth.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's like a gap in the market, and they were like, "Let's do teeth too."
The thought of farriers doing teeth at the moment just puts a fear of God into me.
But if you think about it, farriers are used to using rasps.
They've got all the tools, yeah.
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 They're used to using rasps. Like, they file down the horse's feet.
Yeah.
They have like a feel of how much pressure to put on.
Yeah. How much to take off before you hit sensitive tissue. Yeah. Makes sense.
And they're used to dealing with the horses regularly. Yeah. And they're quite good, most of them are quite good at, if you've got a horse that doesn't want to stand still, dealing with that. Yeah. Like, they tend to work with the horses quite a lot. Yeah. I thought it was a cool little...
Yeah, that's a cool little fact.
So if you want to learn more about dentists, you didn't listen to the last episode. Yeah. Scroll back.
Alright, well, I think that's everything. Alright, thanks for listening. Alright, bye.